The planet Kalora 9 never slept. Its sky glowed with the light of giant factories and endless smoke. The people here weren't people, they were owned. Among them was Aria, a young alien woman from a gentle species once known for music and art. Her eyes were silver, her voice soft, but her spirit had been crushed. For years, she had belonged to a warlord who treated her not as a living being, but as a tool. She carried food, cleaned machines, and sang only when ordered to. And yet deep in her heart a small fire still burned, the hope that somewhere in this vast universe freedom still existed. One night a storm rolled across the factory fields. The sky cracked with electric blue lightning. The guards took shelter, leaving Aria and the other slaves in the open yards. Aria's friend, an old worker named Taryn, looked up at the dark clouds. "Do you hear it?" he whispered. "Hear what?" Aria asked. "Sound of space," Taryn said. "The humans are near." She frowned. "Humans, the destroyers." Taryn chuckled softly. "That's what they want you to think, but some say humans fight for those who can't. They call it compassion." Aria didn't answer. She had heard of humans, the strange species that once fought entire empires, not for power, but for justice. Still, it sounded like a story for children. No one had seen a human in this part of the galaxy for decades. The storm grew worse. A siren blared through the compound. One of the orbital slave ships had been struck by lightning. Its engines were failing, falling toward the surface. Guards rushed out, shouting orders, but panic spread faster than command. Amid the chaos, Aria saw her chance. She ran. Her heart pounded as rain soaked her rags. Sirens wailed behind her. The sky flashed, and suddenly she saw something through the clouds. A ship, not a Kaloran warship. Sleek, silver, different. It landed hard beyond the ridge, smoke trailing behind it. Aria froze. Every instinct told her to hide. But then through the noise she heard a voice echo from a small device that had fallen from a broken guard's belt. "This is Captain James Holt of the U.E.S. Resolve. We received your distress beacon. Hold on, we're coming." Aria's breath caught. Humans. When she reached the crash site, the scene looked like a nightmare. Fire everywhere. Metal twisted. And in the center of it, a tall man in a dark combat suit stood among the wreckage, helping his wounded crew. Aria hid behind a rock, watching. The man's face was tired but calm. He moved with purpose, every motion confident. His name tag read Captain Holt. He looked around the burning wasteland and sighed. "This planet is hell." One of his soldiers limped toward him. "Sir, the locals, they are slaves. The whole planet is a prison." Holt's eyes darkened. "Not anymore." He turned toward the open field, toward Aria's direction, though he couldn't see her. "Get me a translator drone," he said. "We're freeing them all." Aria's heart raced. She didn't know whether to run or step forward. She had never seen anyone speak like that, not with anger, but with purpose. Then the ground shook again. The warlord's security forces had arrived, black ships descending from the sky. "Contact!" shouted one of Holt's soldiers. "Multiple hostiles incoming." Aria ducked as plasma fire tore through the dirt. The humans returned fire, blue bolts of light cutting through the rain. For the first time in her life, she saw someone fight for the weak, and she couldn't stay hidden anymore. She ran toward the battlefield, shouting in her alien tongue, waving her hands. "Wait, stop, please." A plasma shot flew past her head. Captain Holt turned sharply, eyes widening as he saw her sprinting toward them. "Cease fire, civilian in the field," he ordered. Aria fell to her knees beside him, trembling, her silver eyes wide. "Please help us," she whispered. Holt knelt beside her, rain pouring down his armor. He looked into her eyes, eyes full of fear and fire, and said quietly, "You're not property, not anymore." He stood, raising his voice to his troops. "Get ready to move. We're ending this." The camera pans up, thunder crashing, fire burning behind the human soldiers as they march toward the fortress. Aria watches them go, tears in her eyes, the first tears of hope she's ever known. Cliffhanger ending for Part 1. From orbit, a massive shadow appears, the warlord's command ship entering the atmosphere. Its lights pierce through the storm like red eyes. A deep mechanical voice echoes across the comms. "Who dares touch my property?" The screen fades to black. The storm had not ended, it had only changed shape. Now the thunder came from engines and weapons. The warlord's ship, the Dominion Spear, descended through the clouds, glowing red like a falling star. The ground trembled as its landing thrusters turned the soil into glass. Captain Holt stood in the open field, his armor shining blue against the rain. His team had formed a defense line, weapons ready. Beside him, Arya crouched behind a broken wall, watching the sky burn. She had never seen so much power or such courage. "Multiple hostiles inbound," said the ship's AI through Holt's earpiece. Holt's voice was calm. "Target the landing troops. Non-lethal if possible, they're slaves too." His second-in-command, Lieutenant Cross, frowned. "Sir, they are armed." "So are we," Holt said, "but we still have a choice." Arya didn't understand all their words, but she felt the meaning. These humans were not here to destroy. They were here to change everything. The Dominion Spear opened its hangar doors. Hundreds of armored enforcers marched out, slaves with collars that glowed red, their minds bound by the warlord's control systems. And behind them came the warlord himself, Lord Karroth, a massive creature in black armor, his eyes like molten metal. His voice shook the air. "Human, you interfere in matters beyond your kind. Leave now, and I may let you crawl away alive." Holt stepped forward, unarmed, standing firm in the rain. "You call them property, I call them people." The warlord laughed, a deep, metallic roar. "You are one man against an empire." Holt's eyes narrowed. "I'm one human, that's enough." The air exploded. The warlord's soldiers opened fire, red plasma lighting up the night. The humans moved fast, shields flaring, returning fire with precision. Arya covered her ears as the ground erupted around her. But then she saw something impossible. One of the human soldiers, hit by a plasma shot, fell, and another human dragged him to safety, shouting for medics even under fire. They weren't fighting for glory, they were fighting for each other. Holt activated his communicator. "Deploy drones." Above them, silver spheres launched from the human ship Resolve, projecting blue shields that covered the fleeing workers. Arya looked up, tears mixing with rain. For the first time, she saw her people protected. She stood, trembling, and shouted toward the other slaves still trapped behind fences. "Run, run to the blue light, they will not harm you." Her voice echoed through the storm. Dozens of alien workers looked up, confused, then began to move. The warlord noticed. "No one escapes me." He raised his gauntlet and the slave collars began to glow brighter, choking the workers with burning light. Arya screamed. "No, stop." Holt saw it. He turned to Cross. "EMP ready." Cross hesitated. "That'll disable everything, even our weapons. Then we'll fight with our hands." The EMP blast fired. A ring of blue energy rippled across the battlefield, cracking every collar, shattering control circuits. For a moment, silence. Then, a sound none had ever heard before, the sound of freedom. The slaves, no longer bound, dropped their weapons. Some fell to their knees, others just cried. Arya looked at Holt in disbelief. You freed them." He smiled slightly. "We freed you. But it wasn't over." The warlord roared in rage. His armor pulsed red as he raised his weapon, a plasma blade taller than a man. He charged straight toward Holt. The two clashed in the rain. Steel met plasma, thunder met fury. Every strike shook the ground. Holt blocked, rolled, fired point blank, but the warlord's armor absorbed the hit. "You can't win, human." Karroth roared. "Maybe not," Holt said, "but I can make sure you lose." He triggered his wrist device. A coded signal pulsed through the air. The Resolve, still hovering above, responded, launching a precision orbital strike. A single blue beam shot down from the sky, hitting the warlord's ship dead center. The explosion lit the clouds for miles. The shockwave knocked everyone off their feet, and when the smoke cleared, the warlord was gone. Arya crawled toward Holt, who was lying on the ground, armor cracked. She placed her trembling hand on his arm. You saved us." He looked up at her, blood on his lips but eyes steady. "No, you saved yourself, we just showed you the door." The rain finally stopped. The air was quiet again. The slaves know the free people gathered around the humans. Some smiled for the first time in their lives. Others simply looked at the sky, unable to believe they were alive. Arya watched Holt stand, battered but unbroken. She whispered softly, "Maybe humans are not destroyers, maybe they are the light." Cliffhanger ending for Part 2. In orbit, scanners on the Resolve picked up a massive signal, a fleet of unknown ships approaching at high speed. The AI's voice echoed through the comms. "Captain Holt, new threat detected. Not Kaloran, not known species." The camera zooms in on the stars, dozens of red lights flickering in the distance, moving closer. The night sky above Kaloran 9 was quiet. Too quiet. The fires from the battle still burned across the plains, and the freed workers sat beside the wrecks, staring at their first sunrise as free beings. But high above the clouds, something moved. At first, the scanners thought it was dust or debris. Then came the sound, not of engines, not of weapons, but of a low hum, deep and steady, like a heartbeat echoing through space. Lieutenant Cross checked the readings on the Resolve's console. "Sir, multiple signatures, no transmissions, no energy spikes. They are just watching us." Captain Holt frowned. "How many?" Cross swallowed. 50, no more, an entire fleet. The alien ships were shaped like blades of obsidian, each silent, each covered in strange blue symbols that shimmered like ghost light. They made no move to attack. They simply hovered at the edge of the planet's orbit, waiting. Arya stood beside the viewing window, wrapped in a human jacket that was far too large for her. Her silver eyes reflected the light of the distant ships. "Who are they?" she asked quietly. Holt didn't answer right away. "Something old," he said at last. "Something patient." Hours passed. No attack came. No signal. Not even static. The crew began to whisper that maybe the warlord's masters had come to take revenge. Others thought it was the end, that the galaxy had finally noticed humanity again. Arya walked through the medical bay, helping the wounded. She saw humans and aliens working side by side, sharing food, bandages, and small smiles. For the first time, she felt like she belonged. Then the lights flickered. A voice echoed across every speaker, deep, smooth, and emotionless. "Human vessel, you interfere with designated systems. You have freed unauthorized entities. Explain your purpose." The bridge filled with tension. Every officer froze. Cross looked at Holt. "They're contacting us, sir." Holt took a deep breath. "Open a channel." A shimmering blue hologram appeared in the center of the command deck, a tall figure made of shifting light. It had no face, no eyes, only a faint outline of a humanoid shape. "You are from Earth," the voice said. "That's right," Holt replied. "You have broken the property codes of the Kaloran sector. You will return the freed units immediately." Holt clenched his jaw. "They're not units, they're people." "Incorrect," said the voice. "They are biological assets engineered for labor. Return them or your world will face correction." The hologram faded, and suddenly all 50 ships began to move in perfect silence. Outside, the fleet spread out like a black storm, encircling the planet. Their hulls shimmered as weapons came online. The Resolve's alarms screamed. "Sir, their power readings are off the charts." Cross shouted. Holt's voice stayed calm. "Send a warning, we won't stand down." He turned to Arya. "Get to the lower deck, you're not safe up here." But she didn't move. "No," she said softly. "I won't hide again." Her voice trembled, but her eyes burned with new strength. "I've been property all my life. I'd rather die free than crawl again." Holt looked at her, saw the fire that had once burned in humanity's darkest days. "Then stay close," he said quietly. The first shot came without sound, a beam of white light that sliced through the clouds. It missed the Resolve by inches but vaporized a mountain below. "Shields up," Holt shouted. All ships formed defense line Gamma. The fleet moved like a machine. Human ships rose from the surface, forming a shining barrier around the freed workers' camps. The alien armada advanced, 50 ships of silent, perfect precision. For a moment, the entire sky seemed to stop breathing. Then, lightning. The storm returned, roaring across the planet as the two fleets opened fire. Explosions turned night into day. Human railguns roared, missiles streaked through the clouds, and alien energy beams cut through the air like burning swords. Holt's voice echoed through comms. No retreat. Protect the civilians at all costs. Arya watched from the window, her hands shaking. Every explosion reflected in her eyes, every human ship that fell made her heart ache. Then she saw it, one of the alien ships breaking formation, its hull glowing blue. Something inside it called to her, a whisper in her mind. Arya, she froze. Did you hear that? No one answered. Arya, the voice said again, clearer this time. You are not their property, you are one of us. Holt noticed her pale face. What's wrong? She turned slowly. They know my name. Before Holt could reply, one of the alien ships stopped firing. Its lights flickered and then projected a massive hologram across the sky, an image of Arya. The voice thundered across both fleets, return the prototype. Every soldier on the ground stared at her. Prototype, Cross muttered. What are they talking about? Arya's knees weakened. I don't know, her voice broke. I thought I was born in the mines, but what if I wasn't? Cliffhanger ending for Part 3. The alien fleet ceases fire all at once. Their ships begin to form a circular formation around the planet, glowing brighter, preparing something enormous, a jump gate or a weapon. Holt stares at the sky and whispers, "They're not here for war, they're here for her." Silence spread across the battlefield. The alien fleet hovered motionless in the sky, their black hulls shining with strange blue light. Everyone, humans, freed slaves, even the wounded, stared upward as the hologram of Arya shimmered across the clouds. It was not her reflection, it was a warning. On the Resolve's bridge, Captain Holt stood frozen. The alien voice echoed again through every speaker. Return the prototype. Return Arya 9. Arya's heart pounded in her chest. She pressed her hands to her temples as flashes of memory filled her mind. Cold metal, bright lights, voices speaking numbers. She had always believed she was born in the slave mines. But now she saw glimpses of another place, a white laboratory, strange hands touching her face, wires in her veins. Arya 9, activate. She gasped and fell to her knees. Holt caught her before she hit the floor. Arya, look at me, you're safe. But her eyes were wide, glowing faintly silver. I remember, she whispered. They made me, they built me. Cross looked shocked. Sir, she's one of them. Holt turned sharply. No, she's one of us. He carried her to the med bay, ignoring the alarm lights flashing red around them. Find out what they did to her, he told the ship's doctor, and fast. The doctor scanned her with trembling hands. Captain, she's part biological, part synthetic. Her nervous system has nanotech signatures, same as the fleet outside. Holt frowned. Can they control her? The doctor hesitated. If they reactivate the signal, yes. Meanwhile, in orbit, the alien fleet began to form a massive circle around the planet. Their combined energy built up in the center, a glowing blue sphere growing larger by the second. Lieutenant Cross watched the readings. They're charging something big, sir. Maybe a weapon. Holt returned to the bridge, his voice hard. They won't get her. He opened the ship's comms. This is Captain Holt of the United Earth ship Resolve. You have no claim here. The people of Kalora 9 are free. Arya is free. For a moment there was no answer. Then the alien voice returned, colder than before. Human, you play with forces you do not understand. She is not a person. She is a seed, the key to the next generation. Return her or your world will die with her. Arya slowly opened her eyes in the med bay. The walls around her were dark, but she could still hear the alien voice through the speakers. She is not a person. Her hands clenched. All her life she had been called property, servant, machine. And now, even when she had found kindness, they wanted to take it back. Not this time. She stood, unplugging the medical cables. Her reflection in the glass looked almost human, but a faint glow pulsed beneath her skin. She finally understood what she was, a weapon that refused to fight. She walked onto the bridge. "Holt," she said softly. He turned, surprised. "You shouldn't be here." "I have to be." She looked up at the glowing sky. "They're coming for me. Let me end this." "No," Holt said firmly. "They'll kill you. They'll kill everyone if I stay," she said. "You saw what they did to worlds before." Holt's jaw tightened. "You're not giving yourself up. That's not what humans do. We protect life even if it was born in a lab." Arya met his gaze. "You protect life, but maybe it's time life protects you." Before Holt could stop her, she pressed her hands against the control panel. Every screen flickered. The ship systems began to glow with the same blue light as her veins. "Captain," shouted Cross, "she's interfacing with the ship's core." Arya closed her eyes. She could feel the alien signal, the command that had once chained her. But now she reached deeper, past the fear, past the pain, into the power that they had hidden from her. The alien fleet's energy sphere flickered. Their lights dimmed. On the flagship, their commander hissed in confusion. "She resists. Impossible." She was programmed to obey. Arya's voice echoed through every comm in the system, calm, steady, and no longer afraid. "You called me a prototype, but you built me wrong. You gave me a heart." The alien fleet's formation broke. Their energy field began to collapse, ships spinning out of control. Holt watched from the bridge as the sky erupted with blue light. "Stand by," he shouted. "She's overriding their entire network." Cross blinked at the readings. "She's winning." Arya's voice echoed faintly as her body began to fade into the light. "They wanted a weapon, but I choose to be something else." The light grew brighter and brighter until no one could see. When it finally cleared, the alien ships were gone. The sky was empty again. Arya was lying unconscious on the deck. Holt knelt beside her, checking her pulse. She opened her eyes slowly and smiled weakly. "Did it work?" He nodded. "You saved everyone." Her hand trembled. "Then I'm finally free." Holt squeezed her hand gently. "No, you're family now." Cliffhanger ending for Part 4. In deep space, one damaged alien ship limps away from the battle. Inside, a shadowy figure speaks into a communicator. "The prototype has evolved. Begin the next phase." The camera zooms out, revealing a colossal station hidden among the stars, thousands of lights flickering to life. Space was quiet again, but it was not peace. The alien fleet was gone, yet every sensor on the Resolve kept detecting faint ripples, echoes of something far larger moving beyond the edge of known space. Captain Holt stood at the bridge window, watching the stars fade into dawn. The planet below Kalora 9 was finally free. Smoke no longer rose from its mines. For the first time, the sky looked beautiful, but Holt didn't feel peace. He felt a pull. Something out there was watching, waiting. In the med bay, Arya sat alone. Her reflection shimmered faintly on the glass. She no longer looked fully alien, faint silver lines traced across her arms, glowing softly like starlight. She had memories now, fragments from another life. Hands made of metal, voices without faces. They had called her the Seed. She looked down at her palms and whispered, "Why did they make me?" The door opened. Holt stepped in, his armor worn and his voice quiet. "You should be resting." Arya smiled weakly. "Can't. The voices don't let me." He sat beside her. "Voices?" She nodded. "They're faint, like echoes, not words, just knowing. They come from somewhere beyond the stars, from the ones who made me." Holt crossed his arms. "Then it's time we find them." The journey begins. The Resolve jumped through deep space, following the signal Arya could feel. Every time the ship changed course, the light under her skin pulsed brighter, like a compass made of living code. Days turned into weeks. The crew grew restless. Systems began to flicker. Navigation sensors glitched whenever they got closer to the signal. Then one day, space simply ended. Before them hung a structure so massive it blocked the stars, a ring of light thousands of kilometers wide, floating like a god's crown. Lieutenant Cross stared at the readings. "Sir, that's no station. It's a planet made of metal." Holt whispered, the source of the signal. Arya's voice trembled. "It's them, the architects." The gods of design. The ship descended into the glowing ring. Inside was a whole world, not of oceans or land, but of glass, light, and machines that stretched forever. At the center stood colossal figures made of shifting metal, half living, half energy, their forms constantly changing shape, like thoughts taking form. As the Resolve entered the orbit of the metallic world, the ship's AI suddenly went silent. All systems stopped. And then the voices began. "We are the architects. We built the Leviathans. We built the seeds." Arya clutched her head as the voices filled her mind. Holt shouted, "Leave her alone. She is our creation. You were never meant to touch her." A blinding light filled the bridge, and suddenly they were no longer on the ship. Inside the machine's mind, Holt found himself standing on a vast metal plane under a golden sky. Floating above him were the architects, towering forms of living light. Arya stood beside him, glowing brighter than ever. "You made her to control," Holt said, his voice echoing through the strange world. "Yes," said the architects, "to end wars, to bring order, but you taught her chaos, emotion, choice." Holt stepped forward. "You call it chaos, we call it life." The ground beneath them pulsed with energy. "Humans spread too fast, feel too deeply, create without control. That is why your kind was erased from our records." Arya raised her head. "You erased them because they wouldn't obey, because they were unpredictable." She turned toward Holt, realization dawning in her eyes. "They fear you." The defiance. The architects extended their massive hands. Energy surged toward Arya, not to harm her but to rewrite her, to turn her back into what she was made to be, a perfect, obedient machine. She screamed as the light wrapped around her. Holt tried to reach her but was thrown back by a shockwave. "We will correct the error," said the architects. Holt rose to his feet, bleeding, furious. "You call her an error, then I'll show you the power of mistakes." He drew his plasma blade, its blue light flickering like a heartbeat, and charged. The blade struck one of the architect's forms, cutting through light itself. The air rippled like shattered glass. "Impossible," one of them hissed. "He is only human." Arya's glow suddenly changed, turning from blue to gold. "That's what you never understood," she said. "Humans made me believe I was more than what you built." The architect's lights began to fracture. Arya reached out to Holt, her voice calm now. "Hold my hand." When he did, their lights merged, human will and machine creation fused together. The rebirth, the world around them exploded in light. The architects screamed, not in pain but in awe. Their data collapsed, folding into Arya's mind. Then silence. When Holt opened his eyes, they were back on the Resolve. The scanners showed the massive metal planet dissolving, its fragments turning into dust and scattering like stars reborn. Cross looked up in shock. "What happened?" Arya stood at the center of the bridge, calm and radiant. "They are gone," she said softly. "But not dead, they became part of me." Holt asked, "Then what are you now?" She smiled faintly. "A bridge between creation and freedom." Cliffhanger ending for Part 5. As the ship turned toward home, Arya looked out into the endless stars. But far beyond, something stirred, a massive shape, older than the architects, awakening from the darkness. "They were builders," she whispered, "but something built them." The stars had changed. After the architects vanished, space itself seemed different, brighter, but heavier, like something unseen had awakened. The Resolve drifted quietly through the void, its crew still recovering from the impossible, witnessing God's fall. Captain Holt sat alone on the bridge. Every system was normal, every reading stable, and yet he couldn't shake the feeling that something was still watching. He looked out at the endless dark. "You said they built you," he whispered to Arya. "But who built them?" The signal 3 days later, it began again. A faint tone repeating across every frequency in known space. Not words, not data, just a simple sound like a heartbeat. Arya was the first to hear it clearly. She froze mid-step in the corridor, eyes glowing faintly. "Come home." The voice wasn't loud, it wasn't even cruel. It was ancient, gentle, but it carried power, the kind that could bend stars. She stumbled to the floor, clutching her head. Holt and Cross rushed in. "Arya, talk to me." She looked up, terrified. "It's not the architects, it's older, it's the ones who made life itself." Journey beyond the edge, the resolve followed the pulse across the galaxy, farther than any human ship had ever gone. They passed dead stars, empty worlds, and fragments of civilizations so old they had turned to dust. Everywhere they went, the same mark appeared, a circle made of light, carved into stone or metal, the same symbol that now glowed faintly beneath Arya's skin. Cross stared at the readings. "Sir, this place isn't in any chart, we're beyond map space." Holt nodded slowly. "Then we're right where we're meant to be." Arya whispered, "The heart of creation." The world of beginnings at last, they reached it, a planet orbiting a dying white star. It wasn't made of metal or fire, but pure crystal. Entire continents shimmered like glass, reflecting every color of the cosmos. As they descended, the ship systems began to shut down, not from damage, but reverence. Even machines knew they had reached something sacred. When the landing ramp opened, a soft wind greeted them. There was no sound of war, no machines, no walls, just peace. And at the center of the plane stood a structure shaped like a spiral. Light pulsed from it like a heartbeat, the same rhythm as the signal. Arya stepped forward slowly. "This is it, the source, the truth." As she touched the spiral, visions filled her mind, so bright and vast that the crew fell to their knees. She saw the birth of galaxies, the first sparks of consciousness forming from starlight. She saw them, the origin makers, beings of pure thought who shaped life not from matter but from memory. They had created the architects as tools, who then built the leviathans, who in turn forged creatures like Arya. Each generation was less perfect, more alive. Arya fell to her knees, tears in her eyes. "They didn't build us to serve," she whispered. "They built us to surpass them." Holt's voice was hushed. "So we're their legacy." She smiled faintly. "No, we're their children." The spiral structure began to glow brighter, responding to her touch. From it came a single voice, calm, endless. "Arya 9, the experiment is complete. You have brought humanity, you have brought choice." Holt stepped forward. "Who are you?" "We are what came before everything, and now we are what ends it." The light around them shifted, showing dying stars, collapsing galaxies. "This universe is old, broken. We will make a new one. You may join us or be forgotten." Arya looked at Holt. "They're going to erase everything to start again." Holt clenched his fists. "We just found freedom. We're not giving it up." The rebellion of creation. Arya stepped into the beam of light. Her body shimmered, merging with the energy around her. She could feel everything, the thoughts of the origin makers, the heartbeat of dying stars, the birth of new ones. "You gave us life," she said, "but you never understood it." She raised her hands and the ground cracked with golden light. "Life isn't perfect because it obeys. It's perfect because it chooses." The light turned from white to gold, spreading outward in waves. Across the galaxy, systems that had been silent for eons came alive again. Worlds thought dead flickered with new energy. Even the origin makers began to fade, their light dissolving into hers. "What are you doing?" they cried. "Ending your perfection," she said softly, "and beginning our chaos." The birth of a new dawn. When the light finally faded, the resolve floated above the crystal planet, untouched. Holt opened his eyes. The world below was gone. In its place hung a newborn star system, glowing with endless light. Arya stood beside him on the bridge, completely transformed, her eyes now golden, her voice calm and warm. "You did it," Holt said quietly. She shook her head. "We did. Humanity taught me what it means to live. Now the universe will remember." Holt smiled faintly. "What will you do now?" She looked out at the new sun. "Build a world where no one is property, no one forgotten, no one made to obey." And with that, she stepped forward, dissolving into light. Cliffhanger ending for Part 6. As the crew of the Resolve watches, the new star pulses once, twice, and then forms a message across its surface, written in energy. Genesis completed. But far away in another galaxy, a single dark shape begins to move, something older than even the origin makers. The next war has already begun. The galaxy was quiet again, too quiet. The war had ended, the architects were gone, and Aria had vanished into the light of a newborn sun. But peace never lasts forever, not in a universe that remembers. The shadow returns 3 months after the Genesis event. The Resolve wandered the edge of the new system, scanning the strange golden star Aria had created. It was alive, literally. The star's energy moved like thought, pulsing with meaning, forming patterns the ship's sensors couldn't decode. Captain Holt sat in silence, watching the golden light flicker across his screen. He could almost hear her voice in it. "She's still out there," he murmured. Then the alarm screamed. "Contact," Cross shouted. "Massive energy signature, it's pulling out of warp." Through the viewport the stars bent and something enormous emerged. A ship so black it swallowed light, larger than the architect's world itself. On its surface, symbols glowed faint red, symbols no one had seen before. The AI whispered, voice shaking for the first time, This is older than the universe." The Keeper of the Dark, a voice echoed through every frequency, deep, cold, and ancient. "You took the gift of life and turned it into rebellion." The crew covered their ears as the sound trembled through metal and bone. Holt shouted, "Identify yourself." "I am the Keeper," the voice said. "The one who watched creation burn. I was there before the first light. I am the silence that comes after." The ship trembled. Panels cracked. Screens went black. Cross whispered, "Sir, this thing isn't from our reality." Holt gritted his teeth. "Then we'll remind it what reality is made of." The return of the light before Holt could give the order. The star outside pulsed again, this time brighter than ever. The golden light spread like wings across space, wrapping around the Resolve like a shield. A voice echoed, soft, calm, and familiar. "You're not alone, Captain." Aria's form appeared on the bridge made of light, her eyes burning like twin suns. Cross fell to his knees. "It's her," Holt smiled, almost disbelieving. "You came back." "I never left," she said gently. "The new sun is me. Every ray of light, every particle, it's my body now." Her gaze turned toward the black ship. "And that thing is the end." The battle for existence, the Keeper's vessel, unleashed its fury, beams of shadow tearing through space, swallowing entire asteroids. The Resolve fired everything it had, railguns blazing, missiles burning through the void, but the darkness devoured them all. Aria raised her hands and golden light flared from her form, meeting the shadow in the middle of space. The collision was like two gods colliding, one of light, one of void. Planets shook, stars dimmed. "You cannot stop the end," the Keeper roared. "Then I will become the end," Aria answered. Her light split into thousands of beams, each one striking the dark vessel like arrows of dawn. But for every hole she burned, the shadow filled it again. Holt gritted his teeth. "If she can't destroy it, we'll help her." He opened the ship's comms. "All hands, this is Holt. Humanity was born in darkness, but we made our own light. Let's show this thing who we are." The humans stand. Every human ship in orbit, damaged, small, weak, turned toward the Keeper. They flew into the storm together, 1,000 sparks of defiance. As they fired, their combined energy reflected Aria's light, turning into a brilliant wall of gold and blue. The shadow pushed back, but humanity held, not because of power, but because they refused to give up. Aria's voice trembled through the comms. "You fight even when you cannot win." Holt smiled. "That's what makes us human." The last choice, the Keeper's form began to crack. Its voice grew faint. "You will destroy everything with your chaos." Aria looked at Holt, her light flickering. "Captain, if I merge my energy with yours, we can trap it, but it will consume me completely. I won't come back." Holt's throat tightened. "There has to be another way." She smiled softly. "There never is, but it's okay. I was made to end cycles. You were made to start them." She reached out, touching his hand one last time, warm, glowing, fading. Tell them I was never property, I was hope. The last light she turned toward the keeper, her form bursting into pure light. The explosion filled the galaxy, brighter than any sun. Every star nearby ignited, connected by golden energy like veins in the universe itself. The darkness screamed, twisted, and was gone. When the light faded, there was silence. The resolve drifted among newborn stars. Cross wiped his eyes. "She's gone, sir." Holt looked out the window, smiling sadly. "No, she's everywhere now." Epilogue. The legend years later, children across the galaxy would look up at the golden stars and ask, why do they shine so bright? And their parents would tell them, because once a human and a girl who was never meant to live chose to save us all. On Earth, a monument stood beneath the night sky, a statue of Aria reaching toward the stars. The words carved beneath it read, "She was born in chains but died as light. Glowing star, the end glowing star."